Hello, welcome to another episode of The Rundown. My name is Sunny Galt. I am a messenger with United Network News. UNN is the official news channel for CARE, which stands for the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. And on our newscast and also through this podcast, we discuss what we call the real news, because there's a lot of information out there. Most of it's not reliable. If you're listening to the mainstream media or even the alternative media, you're getting a fraction of the truth. And we have a newscast that is released through our online distribution platform every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which, by the way, you can find us at unitednetwork.tv. If you want to become a member and get access to all of our content, then that is the site you go to. On this podcast, we highlight some of the stories we cover on our newscast, and we talk about a wide variety of things. We talk about some local stories as told through the eyes of what we call our field messengers. We give you new Earth stories because we are transitioning into a new Earth, and there's a lot of exciting things that happen with that, including restoration stories and just thinking about ways to do things differently, because we're kind of all backward right now. And there's much better ways and healthier ways, not just for our planet, but for humanity and other organic beings to just live life and live life harmoniously with one another. So we try to give you some ideas of ways to do that in our New Earth section of our news. We also talk about regional stories that are impacting, different countries on our planet. And, some of those stories you might hear on other media outlets, but we try to dig a little deeper and give you a little bit more meaning behind what's actually going on. Because usually whatever's in the headline, that is not the real story. They are counting on people just to read the headline, and that's it. And because we've become lazy, quite frankly, right? And we don't do a lot of due diligence and research and stuff like that like we really need to be doing, because we're too busy working 5 jobs, right? And that's all by design. But there is a lot of stuff happening out there, and sometimes you got to read between the lines in order, to get that. So we'll talk about some of those stories. And then we have our World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. And I have a few sound bites for you guys today about that. And we are talking about other world. We're talking what's happening on our planet, and then other beings coming to our planet. So this is definitely one of those episodes. If you're just used to mainstream media, you may be going, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Here's the thing. Yes, what we talk about here is not being talked about in other places. The information may seem a little cuckoo to some people, but please stick with us, okay? I was one of those people a few years back that probably would have never turned on a podcast like this. I would have never hit play. But look at me now. You just, you do a little bit of research and you go down some rabbit holes, and holy moly, you discover a lot. So I encourage you to stick with us, because we really are giving you the real news. But please don't just listen to us. Do your own research. I know the internet has been scrubbed for a lot of stuff, but you can still find information out there. Please don't use Google. That's probably not going to get you very far. Use any other search, any other browser besides Google. And, try to find the information yourself. Do a little bit of digging, Gone are the days where we just listen to talking heads because they appear behind an anchor desk or happen to have their own radio show or part of some, national broadcasting blah, 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 right? We don't do that anymore, because that authority means nothing. We know that those people are paid off. We know those people are pretty much just taking information from another source and, just passing it off as the truth, and it's not. Right? And we are here to break down fact from fiction. So you guys ready to get started? Here is the rundown for Monday, October 30th, 2023. All right, let's kick things off with our field messenger reports. Now, if you want more information on how to become a field messenger, please check out our website. It's the news portion of our website, which is unitednetwork.news. And there is a section, I believe it's in the main navigation, that says field messengers. And it has a ton of information for you guys. And that's also where you can submit your field messenger reports. So field messengers are people just like you that are passionate about their community. They want to see things improve. And we believe you guys are the best people to tell these stories. So we're encouraging you, take out your cell phone, show us what's happening in your community. Sometimes these stories are more, fun events, community events, things like that. And then sometimes they're more news focused, and we are a newscast, okay? So we are encouraging people to submit more news stories. And today is a fantastic example of great news stories that people went out and did on their own, based on their own perspective, okay? You're not expected, you don't have to have a journalism degree. Trust me, I have a journalism degree. I know what they're teaching in journalism schools, and it's not really to be a well-rounded, source all your material. That is really not what they're teaching, okay? So even going to journalism school probably wouldn't help you with this. Just report on what you see, what you physically see, and if you're able to talk to people, great. But that's your story. And that's exactly what our field messengers today did. So our first story is about a landslide in Sweden. And Akasha and Rolf created this story. Akasha was on camera, and I believe Rolf did some of the video footage, which is awesome. Hey, you can team up. Great idea. It's actually easier if you have someone doing camera work. Trust me. So this story is about a landslide, and it happened on September 23rd before 2 a.m., I believe. Huge landslide. And E6 apparently is the European highway over there. And you should see these photos that Akasha and Rolf, I don't know if they took it or they had some aerial photos. It's possible we may have pulled these from some other resources, but they did take footage from, the ground level as well. And it's really interesting. So huge landslide affected this highway, local businesses. They said that it is impacting national and international transport. But here's the thing. This isn't just a natural, a lot of rains came and now we've got this landslide. That's not what's happening here. In fact, a criminal investigation is underway because they believe there is, they, meaning authorities, believe there could be an environmental crime that took place here. Because here's the thing. Locals are reporting multiple explosions. Some people are saying 2, other people are saying possibly up to 6 major explosions occurred just 2 days before this landslide. So, again, it wasn't the storm clouds that came through and, whatever. It wasn't an earthquake or anything like that. This is a non-natural occurrence. At least that's where the evidence is pointing to this being very non-natural. And here's another interesting fact. So apparently there is an area nearby that has been excavated and is ready to build, get this, homes. So a development is underway, which it seems a little sketchy, right? Now, the owner or the developer, let's just say, they said they have not used explosives since last summer to help flatten the land and, do everything they're going to do to build this neighborhood. Is that true? I mean, there's some things here that aren't adding up. And sometimes the job of a field messenger isn't necessarily to connect the dots. It's just to say, hey, this is going on, but hey, look over here. And did you know this is happening over here? So good job. Well done, Akasha and Rolf, because this is what being a field messenger is about. This is in their neck of the woods, and they see this and they report on it because they care, right? All right, our second story is about drinking water in Elba Island. So this is a new lesson in geography for me. So Elba Island is technically part of Italy, but it is an island. It's not right connected. It's an island, right? So it's not directly on Italy. It is right next to it, okay? And Kirsten and her lovely 2 daughters did this story about the drinking water there. So their family is staying at a campsite. Hey, even when you're on vacation, guys, you can do field messenger reports. So the family is at this campsite and they grab some water and they noticed that it had a lot of chlorine in it. So they started asking around. This is where the news story starts, right? And they found out that there are a lot of old pipes that the water goes through. And because of that, they have to add chlorine and things to get rid of all the nasty stuff in the old pipes, right? They have tried filtration. That doesn't really work. So this is obviously an issue. And instead, most people have to use bottled water. But here's the thing. They even have a natural water source. It's just really expensive to filter that, not literally filter it, but get that to the people. And right now it's privatized. And again, things cost money, right? So this is an incredible opportunity for restoration. I don't need to tell you guys that having quality drinking water ranks pretty high on the list of necessities and essentials that any community needs. So let's hope in the very near future, Elba Island is able to get that because it's really important, right? And our final story is from Belinda in Minnesota, and she gives us an update on the Mississippi River. So she lives not too far away from where you can access the Mississippi River. And she's done some stories on this in the past, but there is a really bad drought that is going on right now. And this has been the case for the last few years. She says rain is not coming. She also reports that there have been a lot of chemtrails in the sky. And if you guys aren't aware of this, the chemtrails, that can cause clouds to not function properly. And obviously, one of the functionality of a cloud is to hold rain and to release rain. So if the clouds aren't functioning properly, they may not be dropping rain. And this is the connection that Belinda sees. She does not think this is a natural thing. She says the river is extremely low. There's even parts where you can literally walk across the river from side to side, which apparently you're not supposed to do when it's at its normal level. And this is an important river. It passes through multiple states and impacts citizens in many different ways. And also wetlands are drying up, creeks, other smaller rivers, everything's drying up. So this is a big problem too. We know chemtrails are an issue. And we have been hearing reports of, in certain areas they go away and then they end up coming back. And so obviously this is something that is important. We have to get rid of the chemtrails. There's a lot of stuff, as I'm sure you guys know, happening on the world stage right now. So we are aware of this and we are doing everything we can to stop this. But the same people are kind of causing all this destruction. So as they, start to, not even start to, but as they go away, meaning die and go back to source, because that's pretty much what's happening right now. People are being taken out because they are harming humanity, and they have made it very clear that they have no intention of stopping. So we have help right now to take these people out. And this was not even a call that Kim made from the Office of the Guardian. This was higher up than her. But sometimes, people make poor choices, and that's just what's happening. So hopefully in the very near future, the chemtrails will be gone, and places like the mighty Mississippi River will be flowing properly again. All right, let's talk about the new Earth, because that's exciting and uplifting and encouraging. So in the interview portion of this new Earth segment today, we talk with our friend Seth Dietland. If you haven't met him before, we've had him on the news before. He is an angel channeler as well as a hypnotherapist. He talks to angels, which is pretty cool. And you guys can do this too, by the way. And Seth actually teaches people how to do this. But in today's interview, we talk about the new Earth and we talk about our purpose. Because here's the thing. A lot of us feel like we have a purpose here. We are in the third dimension right now, And, we may have a job, we live in a certain location, we may have a passion for something and feel a real purpose. But if, everything's pretty much changing, with the new Earth and going to 5D, does your purpose change? And if it does change, how do you know what that is? And how do you just navigate this whole process, right? So I'm not going to give away everything that Seth talks about, but I'll give you a little hint here. He says if you stay connected, which that means connected to your higher self, connected to God or source, connected to the universe, and, loving towards humanity and are in that higher vibration, that you are going to find your purpose. Like, it's going to happen. Now, I know that a lot of us are like, I want to know what it is right now. Even for me, like, I feel like I know what my purpose is right now. But as things change, I don't know that you guys are going to need someone to tell you what the news is. Your discernment is going to be off the chart. You might be able to just, plug in and be able to sense what is happening in the world. In that case, you don't really need the news. So I've actually thought of this before too. I'm like, well, as we go into 5D, my job is probably going to change. I'm kind of working myself out of a job. Do you realize that? I'm telling you guys how to live in this new Earth. And at the same time, it means my job is totally going to change. But that's the same thing, right? So things are going to change. And really, it's one of those things that if you just plug in and you stay connected, that it's going to happen. So there's that interview with Seth. I encourage you guys to check that out. And then we have a couple of fun stories. The first one is called Lamb Mowers instead of lawn mowers. So we like to give you guys ideas of how people are kind of thinking outside the box, because the way we've done stuff in the past is not how we're going to do things moving forward. Most, if not all, things can be improved in some way or another, right? So this story comes out of Northern Virginia. There is a small business owner who is using South Down sheep, which I had never heard of before. But apparently these sheep are known for their grazing abilities. And he has made a business out of this because these little guys essentially are replacing lawnmowers. So he uses them to tend to suburban lawns. So this is not just out in the country. This is suburbia, right? And he has, I guess there's a couple different options. You can do 2-hour sessions, or what he calls, and I love this title, 24-hour sheepovers instead of a sleepover. Get it? Haha. Where, the sheep come out, they graze on your lawn, they consume weeds. Apparently that's really good for them. They're known for, eating weeds, and it's good for their, digestive system and stuff. So this is like a win-win. And then get this, they leave behind natural fertilizer. Wink, wink, right? Which, truly, it actually is good for the soil. We view it as, manure or whatever, but it's good for the soil. So, hey, it is cost competitive. So if you were to just hire like a lawn boy or something, apparently it's pretty much the same in price. And also the sheep are gentle grazers. So if you think of horses and cattle, they may pull up like all of your grass. And apparently that's not what these sheep do. He says they maintain grass at optimal height. So there you go. Obviously, no chemicals are used. This is very, very natural. This is like nature doing its own thing. And not only that, but it brings a lot of joy to the customers, right? Pour yourself a glass of tea or whatever your beverage of choice is, and just watch the sheep do their thing. That sounds like fun to me. All right. Our final story here in the New Earth segment is called Floating Sea Farms. And these inventors or scientists, let's say, have developed this way to enable crops to grow without a ton of human intervention, right? Because that's kind of the thing with farming is that, it takes humans to do certain things and, that can be costly and whatever. But check this out. So this is the setup, right? Floating sea farms is what we're talking about. So they are vertical floating sea farms. And apparently there are 2 chambers. So you have an upper glass house layer and then a lower water harvest chamber. And by using solar evaporators, the seawater is absorbed, the salts from the seawater are trapped, and then the clean water vapor is released upward. And as it goes upward, it nourishes the crops on the seawater surface. Look at that, you guys. Vertical farms on the sea? I mean, it kind of sounds crazy, but do you know how much of our planet is actually salt water? I mean, you could do some incredible things, right? And in our regional news, we have a few stories that we want to share with you guys today. The first is about the diamond industry. So in Botswana, we're specifically talking about their diamond sales. Apparently, there is a huge decline in the need for diamonds and jewelry, I guess, in general. There's been a decline, which makes sense, right? Because jewelry for most people is not a necessity. And if the economy is doing really poorly, if people are losing their jobs, right? If grocery prices are going up, all these different things, housing prices, you're probably going to cut down on your jewelry spend. I'm just guessing, at least for most people. And Botswana has actually stopped the sales of their rough stones. So you know how, a diamond, you've got to, diamonds are made multiple ways. But one of the ways, right, is to get it out. You mine it, and then it's in a rough stone, like a rough format, if you will. And then it's usually shipped off to someone else, and they do the carvings and, make it look all pretty. Well, Botswana, things would start in Botswana for a lot of these diamonds, and they have stopped. They have stopped the sale of their rough stones, which means rough stones pretty much aren't going out. And that's because there is a surplus of diamonds on the market right now. In fact, apparently they would hold these diamond auctions, and these auctions were held up to 10 times per year. They're all getting canceled. And India, which I just learned, has 90% of the world's diamond cutting and polishing. That's where 90% of it comes from India. They are also urging people like Botswana to not import rough diamonds because of the surplus. People just aren't buying this anymore. This is impacting local economies. It could also increase the price of diamonds worldwide. Now, we're not going to get into all the specifics today, but if you haven't done a deep dive on diamonds and how diamonds are made and the history, like which countries got really popular and made a lot of money from diamonds, this is a very interesting deep dive. And this also kind of crosses over into spiritual topics as well, because diamonds can act like a crystal and can hold energy. And so there's some pretty nefarious stuff going on with how you've heard of blood diamonds and things like that. Well, how diamonds were acquired, the trauma that was involved in all of this, and that trauma gets, that energy gets into the diamond. Think about how many women, myself included at this very moment, walk around wearing diamonds on their person. This gets really nefarious, guys. It really does. It's kind of scary to think about how these diamonds were acquired and the energy behind it, and we're walking around with it on our finger. Seriously? What kind of impact is that having on us on a regular basis? Now, because it's energy, it can also be used for positive things as well. But if you didn't even know that, right? If you didn't know that there was some curse on it or whatever, you wouldn't even know to counter that in some way. So it's not that diamonds are bad. It's just what's been done with them in the past. So if you're looking for a deep dive and you want to go down some rabbit holes, that's a big one. Okay, next story is about South Africa, because families there are facing potential criminal charges because there's been some education reform pushed through Parliament. And now there's a mandate that school-age children have to attend school full time. And this also ties in with their attendance and not missing class and things like that. And if they fail, if the parents fail, they could face up to 1 year in jail, which sounds a bit excessive, right? And this, reform that was passed through Parliament, it also prohibits corporal punishment. And it does some other things as well. But the critics behind this are saying that this totally undermines the autonomy of schools. It undermines parents and communities. They say it takes a village, but, they're really not giving parents a choice here, which is kind of the idea, right? I mean, have you looked at the numbers of how many people want to do school differently? And what's really interesting about this is that they're saying the reason behind all this and this education reform is because South Africa is going through what they call an education crisis. Their country is ranked last in 57 out of 57 other countries for their global reading literacy. So students being able to read, there was a study that was done, it ranked them, in 57th place, right? So obviously they want to make changes. That's not such good publicity, right? But instead of, because this is how I view stuff, and this is how we need to look at stuff for the restoration. Instead of looking at this and saying, well, geez, maybe we're not teaching this the right way. They're like, no, make it mandatory and get these kids in school and punish those parents. Like, our thinking is so backward when it comes to this. So obviously, the education system, whether you're talking about the U.S. or South Africa, does not matter. The whole system has to be revamped. Maybe, just maybe, kids are not reading well because, the method that you're teaching is only for a specific type of person. People learn in different ways. And if they don't have those choices, then yes, those students are going to be limited, as will be their test scores and their grades. All right, our final story as part of our regional news is about book banning in prisons. Now, I can't say I've ever really thought about, the books that are going to prisons before, but this story really made me think. So there are increased restrictions on reading material in U.S. prisons. This is focused in the U.S. In general, they say there is very little oversight or public scrutiny over books that are being sent to prisons because, let's face it, for most of us, our mindset is, well, they just get what they get because they broke the law and blah, 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 blah. Right? So this breaks it down a little bit. There are two different ways or filters, I should say, for books possibly being banned from prisons. The first is called content specific. So this is based on the actual content of the book. Right? We're seeing a lot of headlines now of school libraries and what books are making it into school libraries and not. It's kind of the same thing. Now, I'm not sure what the criteria is for a prison, but I'm sure they don't want people making bombs and things like that, or, not that they would have the materials to do that, but you get my point, right? There is content that is off limits if you're in prison. So content specific is one way they filter. The next way is content neutral, which simply means it's not the content. It's that the books didn't come through the proper channels. Now, that the prison system is all messed up and there are a lot of backdoors and people get, treated differently simply because they know somebody or they're a celebrity or they paid extra money or whatever the case may be. So it is totally corrupt. This prison system in the U.S. and elsewhere is completely corrupt. Something else that totally needs restored. But what was interesting here, tell me if this doesn't raise a red flag for you. Not only are the restrictions based on, the content of the books and how it came through, proper channels, whatever, it extends to the packaging of the books. Some federal facilities require white wrapping. Okay, that's a huge red flag for me. When something has to be wrapped a certain way with a certain color, to me, that shows a coding system, right? So who paid money on what end, right, to get some sort of book to come through? Oh, that gets to go through because it's white wrapping. Do you see what I'm saying? They say these kind of things in articles, and sometimes people just read right through, and it's like, what? Like, that's a moneymaker. I can tell you, that there's, people getting paid to get stuff through because it is white wrapping. And the whole point of doing this story is to show the censorship behind this. So we talk about censorship in a lot of ways. I talk about it a lot as being part of the media. We get censored everywhere. We try to put our content for UNN, right? But this is censorship for the prison. And it really does need to be, another look needs to be given to this because it's impacting 2 million people that are incarcerated right now in the U.S., which makes it, get this, the largest book ban policy in the U.S. But again, people are in prison, whatever, they get what they get, right? Well, I think we can do better. And now for the World Situation Report. And Kim is on the news today, Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Kim and her team, she has help. She is our ground command, but she has a lot of help. And they are helping us transition into this new earth that we keep talking about, okay? There's a lot of restoration that has to happen. And a lot of what we're dealing with right now are people that are still working off plans from a different timeline where the dark wins. And we are not on that timeline anymore. The light has actually already won, believe it or not. I know, if you're just watching mainstream media or, just walking down the street, it may be tough to see that. But that's really what's happening. The light has already won. And now we have to, a lot of it's education to educate some of these people that are running these operations and doing things that, quite frankly, are harming humanity. Part of it's education to say, hey, sorry, we are not in a dark age anymore. We have transitioned into a light age, and now we're focused on restoration. There are a bunch of people that don't want to hear that are still working off playbooks. A lot of these are families that have been around for millennia, and no one wants to hear that they're no longer in power, that their side lost. So honestly, it's been hard to get the information out there. And then even when Kim is able to get the information out there, they just still run around and, it's like they don't want to admit it. They see the information, they see the proof, and they keep just going about their dastardly deeds, which right now involve killing a bunch of people in Israel. These people have no heart, okay? You can't even really treat them like humans because I don't know real humans that would just do this for power or for money. Like that just seems impossible to me. And we know that they have had chips in their brains before. And, some of these beings have probably had demons in them and other lower astral beings. So who knows what their state of mind is right now. But this lunar eclipse was supposed to bring in what they were calling the Immortals, okay? Lower astral beings that were going to come save the day, put them back in charge, get them, back in charge of the financial system so they could carry on with their plans for World War III and, complete world domination. That was the plan. Oh, they're going to come save the day and it's going to happen on Saturday. But it didn't. So their little help is on the way, which is what they were telling everyone. When I say they, primarily it's the Rothschilds, okay? Yes, those people. They are still at it, combined with the Umbrella Military Corporation. In fact, the Rothschilds, I don't know where they get this stuff from. Well, it's probably from those old books or whatever that they're reading, the ones that are covered in real people's skin and nasty stuff like that. Well, they were under the impression that the body count in Israel, they had to raise everything up within 24 hours of the eclipse so their immortals could come in and save the day. So if you've been wondering why the death and destruction has been ramped up over the last few days, well, this is why. I mean, like I said, these people are not even human at this point. I don't even know how somebody does this. They were also sending surveillance planes over these gates, these areas in Israel and in the Gaza Strip where these immortals were expected to come back. Oh, but they didn't. Yeah, because they're gone. These lower astral beings do not exist anymore, you guys. They were sent back to the Creator, to Source, to God, whatever you use to call the creator of the entire universe. Their whole plan, their whole reason for existing was done. So they went back to Source. So they're not going to come up through Israel or the Gaza Strip, these little portal places, these gates. They are not coming to save you, Rothschild people, umbrella military people. And a lot of promises were made that Sunday everyone's going to get paid, kill all these people, do all this horrible stuff because Sunday is payday. Did payment come? No, payment never comes. I have no idea why anyone is still listening to these people. We do know that the operatives, who are the people that usually carry out these orders, that they had a worldwide meeting and they're throwing their hands up in the air saying, who's actually in charge here? Because usually in the past, they would be paid. They would do something and probably something not so great for humanity, and they would get paid. But it's been a very long time, and that is because all of these people are broke. There is no money. Things are being done now on promises, and, I'm a Rothschild, so you have to listen to me. So street cred, I guess. But they're losing it. They're losing their street cred really fast. But I didn't want to play a soundbite. Kim and I did talk about this in detail, but I didn't want to play a soundbite because I'm just so tired of talking about the Rothschilds, honestly. So I thought the soundbites that I picked today, I thought we could talk about the U.S. Speaker of the House because this is a new one. They brought in a new Speaker of the House. He came out of nowhere, and Kim explains why and what his purpose is.
To give you another example of another operation that they are attempting to run, insert the new Speaker of the House.
Yeah, I'm curious about this story because I feel like this guy came out of nowhere. So I'm interested.
And he did come out of nowhere, didn't he?
Right? Yeah.
So this is your Trump operatives. This is your umbrella military Trump operatives.
Okay.
Now, they have realized that there is a lot of backlash coming back from family members when they fail constantly to fund anything. You've got Jared Kushner, or whoever that is nowadays that's playing Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner is over in Saudi Arabia making billions and billions of dollars in promises.
Boy.
The same has been done to the Kuwaiti royal family, which are also Rothschilds. You have this, they're writing checks that they're, can't cash.
Mm-hmm.
They've gotten tons of free weapons from countries like Poland and the U.S. and a lot of different places, to get this thing going in the Middle East. And they have fallen flat on their face. But in their tiny little minds, they believe that if they can insert the new Speaker of the House and create a narrative around it, you could then escalate things as the white hats, quote unquote, talk about on the internet. So let's talk about the plan. This is so easy. It's ridiculous. Okay. Number one, the man comes out of nowhere. Some unknown senator somewhere in the middle of nowhere all of a sudden becomes the Speaker of the House.
Yep.
Now, we've educated all of you. What does it mean when your last name is Johnson? Who do you belong to when your last name is Johnson? Remember, you have the Rogers, you have the Smiths, and you have the Johnsons. And they're all members. What is a Johnson? Johnson is another word for something, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. So you could say that they pulled someone who happens to be a Republican out of nowhere and appointed their little umbrella military operative as the Speaker of the House because they wanted to control the House. Now, Speaker of the House is second in the line of succession for the president, should something happen to the president and the vice president. Now, in the media, they are pushing that every time they mention his name. Mike Johnson is now the second he's not the Speaker of the House. He's second in the line of succession. How's that? He's second in the line of succession. Did you know he's second in the line of succession? Trump, from beyond the grave, is endorsing this man left and right. He is a MAGA guy. Now he's MAGA Mike.
Forget Magic Mike. We got MAGA Mike.
He's not Magic Mike. He is definitely not Magic Mike. No one wants to see that. Okay?
That is very true.
No one does. So he's MAGA Mike now. He's Trump Jr. We're going to brand this guy like we did Trump. That's what they're going to do. Then their plan was today, actually, as a matter of fact, they were planning on having a major disaster event in Washington, D.C., which would have eliminated, in their mind, this is Umbrella Military Corporation, okay, so this is not me. Basically, someone on a jihad was the plan. I'm not sure if it was going to be someone from the Hamas or Hezbollah. I'm pretty sure it might be Hezbollah at this point. They're supposed to be paying someone to take the credit. Mm-hmm. Now, there's also talk of the PMF in Iraq having paid $150 million to the Hamas within the last 24 hours. Now, I have not seen that money move. Therefore, I could probably take that promise back all the way to Umbrella Military Corporation and their failure. Mm-hmm. Again, this is where the whole operation partnership thing kind of falls apart. So they're planning on causing a major catastrophe, whether it's an assassination attempt on a dead guy or whatever it is, and then ushering Mr. Johnson. I still laugh when I say that, Mr. Johnson. Poor guy. Okay, they're going to usher Mr. Johnson, the Johnson, into the White House. And they were planning on doing that between today and tomorrow.
Wow.
And then they could actually officially control the White House, both officially and unofficially. As you know, Umbrella Military Corporation has been running operations from the Situation Room in the White House. Well, God rest their souls.
This is just it's so staged because they must think that the public is still completely blind because, oh, look at the new Speaker of the House. Oh, bye-bye, Mr. President and Mrs. Vice President. Let's just usher. I mean, come on. Like it's like that doesn't really happen like that unless it was intended.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because Operation A was actually to have create a situation. Remember, they were trying to blow up all those dams and everything last week. It was to create a situation to where they could usher in martial law in the public eye and then put the military in charge. But because there was no pay, then the Pentagon is at odds, not in totality. There are still your believers there, but for the majority of generals, these are regular people, are no longer, let's just say, buying what Umbrella is selling. Mm-hmm. They knew they were going to fail. They knew this wasn't going to work. Another one bit the dust in the basement last week, on Friday. They know that everything they're doing is it's so like, I don't know, green. I call it green, means you're a new guy, new kid on the block kind of stuff. Right. And expecting the world to buy it.
It seems amateur is what
it's amateur hour is what I feel like. I'm not even talking to like people on the level of, let's just say, operatives that I have had conversations with and, probably could call up right now if I wanted to and have another conversation. But those people get stuff done. I think that these guys are so used to ordering other people to make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're having to strategize things themselves because they think very highly of themselves. And they're just making a total mess. So they had to get somebody in real quick that was with them 100% to put that person in the White House. And then they'd probably declare that the White Hats won and all of this crap and the swamp is officially drained. I know. Sounds so ridiculous. But that seat, that position, that house really doesn't hold any power.
No.
And the power behind that house is not them. The power is, and this is what they keep forgetting, the power is, and always has been, with the money. That's me over here, right? With the money. Mm-hmm. And the worldwide operatives and agents. I'm sorry, but it has.
There is no such thing as coincidence, especially when you're talking about politics. So the fact that this Johnson character just walked onto the scene, had anyone heard of him? If he's not from your state, or you're not even just your state, your district, like no one's heard of this guy, but he fit the bill for what they were, trying to accomplish at the time. He probably will not last very long. I mean, governments in general are not going to last. They are not going to stand. They are apparently not interested in the restoration plan. And we said months ago that we're done. We're not going to try to convince you anymore. You can, if you're not harming humanity, we'll just sit around until you, just shrivel up. But the problem is they are trying to hurt humanity and they are trying to do bad stuff. And we will counter that when it happens. But right now they're just spinning the wheels and they're doing this ridiculous stuff that isn't going to go anywhere. So yeah, their whole theater is ending up like a clown show. And Kim has also said, and she put out some sort of notice that says she is not doing business with this person because it's a joke and she can see the writing on the wall. So why bother, right? But let's talk about something positive. So for the second soundbite, I want to play this clip. Kim is talking about portals. Now, these are positive portals. These are portals that go up, not down. So they are on the light side. And we are finding that more and more of these portals are now functional. So what does that mean? Guys, we have more visitors. Visitors from higher dimensions are coming to the earth, and it's a really beautiful thing. So I'll let Kim explain it.
I do know that some of the portals that have been closed for thousands and millions of years on our side are actually functional. They do not go down. They only go up. Mm-hmm. But there are people that are folks, I should say, that are using them. So we're seeing a lot more. If you have eyes to see, that you will see a lot more people that just don't quite look like people, and not in a bad way.
That's interesting. We have some visitors. Yeah.
A lot of different energy floating around, and it's a positive energy. That's one thing that I can say that you will notice is that, the average everyday person, even a positive person with good energy feels like one thing. But sometimes when you get around some of these folks that have hailed from, the seventh and eighth density, you're going to feel like whoa energy, it feels like tingly and heat and, it's coming from a person you don't know and it's a little different. So, so that's an exciting change that's happening, which means that we have more help. They are able to actually exist here because the energy is better and clearer and cleaner. So these are positive things. I know a lot of people ask, when are we going to get to meet them? Well, you might see them walking down the street wherever you are,
Maybe today.
And maybe today. You just have to actually look and pay attention to people. when you're walking down the street, from an energetic level. You can read people etherically and energetically, and you might run across non-people at this point, because there's a lot. They look like humans to you, but they're not. So,
is that mimicking, Kim? Are they mimicking?
Yeah, they project an image of themselves, in a way. Yes. Mm-hmm. At some point in time, you'll be able to do something similar, but because we are in the third density, you can actually change your physical appearance. Mm-hmm. If you'd like to be a dog one day, or you feel like being, or you need to be, shed that last 10 pounds or something, you can do that now. If you want to change your eye color, you can do that, because it's easy to do once we have appropriate connections and technology. This is all part of restoration. We don't want to do this until humanity is ready, as a whole. We're also not, we're also formulating a plan together in order to take those steps to get there. Not everything costs money. These people don't work for money. They don't do things for money, but they can do a lot of things and a lot of restoring together as a group. So we'll be having a lot more conversations. We've had some, and they've been great. So I look forward to working together as a group and working on some of our biggest issues right now. Water obviously is a big issue, and they come with technologies, and they're just grateful and thankful that, to be here for the first time in a long time. There's been a lot of reunification of people and folks that, that they've known maybe from other places. It'd be like, knowing someone your whole life that moved to Australia or somewhere, or, in another country, the Banana Republic, and you haven't been able to speak or talk to your friend in years, in our time. And now all of a sudden you get to meet up again and have a cup of coffee. It's like a great reunion. So we're seeing a lot of this in the last couple of weeks too. So it's fun for me to see all of this going on.
Oh, I think it's fun for everybody, right? Just to imagine. I know there were a bunch of comments on Telegram. People got real excited when we started talking about this, because there's so many people that have been waiting for a long time to make contact with someone other than a human. The truth is that you've probably made contact with a bunch of people not originally from this planet, but you just don't know. There's that thing that I mentioned called mimicking, right? And you just wouldn't know because they didn't want to be known. And, they just turn on their little thing, whatever that is, that little mimicking thing that projects an image. And when we're walking down the street, we are expecting to see humans. We are not expecting to see different types of beings, right? And so our mind projects. I mean, it's really interesting, kind of the science behind this, but it is a very real thing. I know some of you might just be like, oh, do. But it's real. It's very real. And now we have more of these people, these beings visiting our planet. And like Kim said, they're visiting with old people, like not old people, but old friends and things like that. I mean, we all know what that's like to see someone we love and we care about and, haven't seen them in a while. So it's a beautiful picture, I kind of envision the Earth in the future being this place like where a lot of people come and go. Like a transit planet, if you will, where there's a lot of coming and going. And this is, for me, I don't know, is kind of the first step towards that. So I thought that was very lovely to see. I love the fact that they're here to help us, and we need all the help we can get, right? Whether you believe in them or not, doesn't make them any less real. And, I think everyone would agree, if there are beings that are willing to help us get out of this mess, then yeah, we'll take it, right? And who knows, you may be walking on the street and see one very soon. Keep your mind open. You never know what could come your way. All right, guys. So I encourage you guys, take the information that you've learned today, do some more digging on it, do more research, keep asking questions. When you see those headlines out there, keep asking questions. think critically. And if you like what you heard today and we got you to think a little bit, and you know someone else that maybe needs a little bit more encouragement to think outside the box, please share this episode or this entire podcast with them, because we want to help them too. If you want to get all of our content and access to everything, please go to unitednetwork.tv. That gives you on-demand access to all of our UNN newscasts, complete world situation reports, so not just the sound bites, but you get to hear the entire thing, as well as other original series. And if you'd like to connect with us, the best way to do that is to go to unitednetwork.news/connect. We do have a bunch of different Telegram channels that you can join. We've got a whole Telegram channel that's just for our field messengers, and we encourage you guys to join that if you want to create reports, because you can ask our producers questions and they can help you out, and other restoration channels as well. So thanks for listening today, guys. We appreciate you. This is The Rundown, and I'm Sunny Galt with United Network News, signing off.